Ever seen a company completely reinvent itself, like just flip the script on who they are? Well, that's exactly what we're looking at today with Volatus Aerospace. We're going to break down their latest earnings call, which reveals this massive, high-stakes pivot away from just commercial drones and straight into the world of defense.
Okay, let's start with this quote from their CEO, Glenn Lynch, because honestly, it says it all. Just 2 years ago, defense was about 5% of our revenue. In 2025, it reached about 25%. Think about that, from 5% to 25% in just 2 years. That's a five-fold jump. We're not talking about a little tweak here. This is a massive fundamental shift. So the big questions are, why do this, and how on earth are they actually managing to pull it off?
All right, so how did they make such a quick change? To understand a pivot this dramatic, you got to follow the money, right? A move this big, this bold, it's just not possible unless you have a rock-solid financial foundation to stand on. And that's exactly where this story begins for Volatus.
Okay, let's look at performance by the numbers, because this is really the fiscal foundation of the whole pivot. To really get the how, we've got to dig into the financials that made it all possible. You know, a strategic shift of this magnitude, it needs a serious war chest. And their 2025 report, well, it shows they definitely built one. So first up, the top line. The company pulled in 34.2 million Canadian dollars in total revenue. That's a really solid number, and it tells you something important. Their core business was already pretty healthy before they decided to make this massive shift.
But what really jumps off the page is the growth. A 26% year-over-year increase? I mean, that's huge. This tells you this wasn't some stagnant company desperate for a lifeline. No, this was a company that was already growing at a really impressive clip, and then they decided to slam their foot on the accelerator. And this right here, this might be the most important number of all. They finished the year with $41 million cash on hand. This is the war chest we were talking about. This is the fuel in the tank that makes a super aggressive pivot like this even possible.
So, okay, they've got a strong balance sheet, they've got cash. Now let's break down the pivot to defense itself. We're going to deconstruct their core strategy because this is where we really get into the heart of the company's new identity.
And wow, this chart really shows you just how radical this whole transformation is. I mean, look at that, from a tiny 5% of their revenue just a couple of years back to a full quarter of the business today. But the real kicker? Look at that future target. They are aiming for defense to make up 65%, nearly 2/3 of their entire operation. This is so much more than just a new product line. It's a complete change of identity.
So what does the Volatus business model actually look like now? Well, the CEO breaks it down into 3 connected parts, which makes a lot of sense. First, you've got the new growth engine, defense and security. That's things like ISR drones and counter-UAS. Then you have their established backbone in aerial intelligence services. Think infrastructure inspection. And finally, all of that is supported by their equipment, cargo, and training division. It's a really smart, integrated platform.
By the way, you're going to hear this term ISR thrown around a lot when we talk about their defense stuff. It just stands for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Basically, we're talking about those high-tech drones used to gather really critical information for defense and security.
And look, this whole pivot isn't just some plan on a whiteboard. It's already paying off. We're seeing some real early successes. They're delivering these ISR drone systems to NATO customers, and this is key, they're getting repeat orders. In the defense world, that is the ultimate vote of confidence. On top of that, they've locked in a $9 million training contract with a NATO ally and renewed a major standing offer with the Canadian government. This is real, tangible proof that the strategy is working right now.
So the initial strategy is clearly working, and now Volatus is building for the future, laying the groundwork for long-term growth. So what's next? What are the big projects that are going to define where they go from here?
Okay, the absolute centerpiece of their future has to be this new Mirabel manufacturing hub in Quebec. We're talking about a 53,000 square foot facility launching in summer 2026. And get this, it has a potential annual capacity of $250 million. Now, it's not expected to be a major revenue contributor until 2027, but make no mistake, this is their big play. This is how they plan to align with Canada's defense industrial strategy and become a true cornerstone of the industry.
And it's not just about hardware. They're making a big move into software with a new platform called SKYDRA. And this is really clever. It's not just about selling counter-drone gear. SKYDRA is a whole planning and simulation platform. It lets organizations plan, simulate, and train for drone threats before they ever happen. It's a really savvy move upstream, and it opens up a whole new world of recurring software revenue.
In this quote from the CEO Glenn Lynch just lays the ambition out there, plain and simple. He says, "Our objective is extremely clear. We want to be recognized as one of the Canadian industrial champions in this sector." So yeah, they're not just trying to be another supplier on the list, they want to be a core player, a true champion for Canada's entire aerospace and defense future.
Okay, but let's be real. A transformation this huge doesn't happen without some serious risks. So, let's put the risks on the radar and take a balanced look at the challenges that are definitely ahead for Volatus.
So really, it all boils down to this high-stakes balancing act. On one side, you have these huge opportunities, right? The Mirabel facility could be a game changer for sovereign manufacturing, the SKYDRA platform opens up totally new software markets, and they're perfectly aligned with Canada's national defense strategy. But on the other side, the risks are just as real. They're front-loading huge investments, which means rising costs. They're at the mercy of potentially slow government contract awards. And of course, there are always regulatory and supply chain headwinds to worry about. It's a classic case of huge potential versus huge challenges.
And that leaves us with the big question. Volatus is betting big, really big, on a sovereign defense future. They've got the strategy, they've got the cash, and they have those crucial early wins. They've basically bet the entire company on becoming a key player in Canada's defense industry. The only question left is, will it pay off? Will they become one of Canada's next industrial champions?